Hello, good afternoon. Otis Toussaint here with the Office of the Surgeon General of the Army here, and we've got a really good special sort of interview that we've got going on this afternoon. Myself and Captain Holly Weaver, of course, with my Army Medicine story, but we've got a special guest, Captain Parham. He's with the St. Louis Medical Recruiting Station with the 5th Medical Recruiting Battalion, and we are also our guest for this afternoon, our main guest for this afternoon, is a Dr. Rosa. He is down in San Antonio. He's a gastroenterologist. And he's going to come and talk to us about life of being a medical doctor in the Army. So I hope you enjoyed today's discussion. And here we go. All right. And without further ado, I'd like to have my co-host, Captain Holly Weaver. What's going on, Holly?
Hey, how are you, Otis?
We're doing good, doing good. And Captain Brandon Parham, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you. And of course, Dr. Rosa, how are you?
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome, awesome. This is going to be a good discussion this afternoon, I believe. I could sense how good a discussion will go, typically by the way how we talk, interact during the broadcast behind the scenes. And I think today is going to be really well. I think we have some very eager viewers who are going to come and check out what exactly what does a gastroenterologist do in the Army, and how can I have my medical school paid for? And you're going to come and just tell us the full story. But before we jump into that, I'd like to have Captain Weaver. Actually, let's go into Captain Parham, because everyone knows Captain Weaver. So Captain Parham, go ahead and give a quick introduction of yourself so that the people could get to know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, Captain Brandon Parham, out of the St. Louis AMEDD, or Army Medical Recruiting Station. I've been in the Army for about 17 years, just over 17 years. I was enlisted for about 11 and decided to commission. The Army paid for my school as well. And just happy to be here, enjoy recruiting.
Awesome, awesome. Captain Weaver, go ahead and jump in and tell us a little bit about you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Captain Holly Weaver, and if you are new to tuning into our series, My Army Medicine Story, what Otis and I have done is we have created a series that features Army medical officers and showcasing them to Army medicine, as well as inspiring the future of Army medicine, we hope, by blending in and adding in the information about recruiting. So if you're interested in any opportunities as a nurse, as a doctor, as a dentist, you can look me up on one of the ways below: LinkedIn, Instagram, text or call my work phone number, or email me. And if I can't help you, then I will find who can help you, and I will be able to give you the information or get the information for you. But the whole premise behind this series is just to get out the information and the opportunities that are within Army medicine, because there are so many opportunities within Army medicine. It is unreal. And I just want to share this really quick story about a nurse who is waiting on their scroll to commission for the Army Nurse Corps. She is an ICU nurse. And actually, I said she, but I am not sure if it's a male or female. A recruiter reached out and told me they have an applicant that is waiting to commission. And so this person watched a live stream that Otis and I did about the Army Nurse Corps. And the sole reason they decided to apply was because they saw our live stream. So what we are doing is starting to get out there, Otis. And it might be slow, and we're probably not going to hear about all the people that end up applying because they've seen these live streams. But I just want you to know that, what we're doing, it's starting to reach far and wide, and we're getting out the information, and we are the vehicle that is allowing the amazing Army officers to inspire those to serve.
Absolutely. More than anything, I myself, I'm also a former medical officer in the U.S. Army. I was enlisted before that, and as a chance to continue to serve, even though I, had to medically retire in 2014, I saw public affairs as that option to be able to continue to serve. So my Army story is an entanglement of medical service and public affairs, and it's something that I enjoy. It's something that I love, and it's something that I hope that I'm able to continue to inspire others who want to be part of the Army itself. As you can see, it gave me one gray hair, but I'm still good to go in the long term. So I wanted to have on Captain Parham real fast. Captain Parham, I know that you and Holly do have the recruiting aspect of things. Can you speak to us a little bit about just how important the medical recruiting job is to you specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I stated before, I've been in the Army for over 17 years. I was a medic, a combat medic for about 11 of those years. And, seeing the doctors and the nurses that I worked with over the years in combat and all of their great training and all of the things that they have done for the medical community, for the soldiers, for the families, both stateside and overseas, really gives me a passion for this job, knowing that we're bringing in doctors and nurses and dentists and everything to help out the Army and just, I guess that's all I have.
We got you. There's no issues with, and I could sense that you have a lot of enthusiasm for your job. You enjoy what you do. You enjoy recruiting the next medical professional within the ranks. And that's something that we welcome as far as guests who are joining us for discussion. And I know, we're three of us, we worked in the same battalion. We worked, the recruiting mission there with Army Medical Recruiting. And so we're thankful today that Major Rosa could come on today and actually talk to us about, his time being a medical doctor and essentially, having his medical school paid for, and now he's continuing his career. So without further ado, let's go ahead and add on Major Rosa. Hey, sir, what's going on? I know we kind of cut you off a little bit there, but hey, I saw you hanging out in the back room, and I want you to know your story is probably going to inspire the next gastroenterologist within the military. So welcome to our discussion.
Thank you so much.
Discussion group.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. Yeah, appreciate it.
No problem,
so as you can see, my name is Cesar Rosa. I came into Army Medicine via the HPSP scholarship. The HPSP scholarship stands for Health Professions Scholarship Program. It's one of two ways really that physicians can get in through the military. It's that way, or it's through the Uniformed Services University. But I commissioned in 2008. After being accepted to medical school, I went to an osteopathic medical school in South Florida, Nova Southeastern. Was there from 2008 through 2012. And that was as inactive reserve. And then from 2012 to 2015, I did my internal medicine residency over at William Beaumont Army Medical Center, which is in Fort Bliss, El Paso. From there, from 2015 to 2017, I was a staff internist over at Fort Polk, Louisiana, Leesville, Louisiana, where I had a great time with another staff internist. It was just a two-man shop over there, so taking care of business. And then from 2017 to 2019, I kind of filled two roles. My primary role was as an assistant professor at the Interservice Physician Assistant Program. And then I kind of did sort of moonlighting over at Brooke Army Medical Center to get my feet wet back into clinical medicine, served as a staff internist over there. And then from 2019 till currently, I've been in fellowship for gastroenterology. Fortunate enough to go that route, and I'll keep it at that.
Awesome. I appreciate you, just kind of giving a quick screenshot essentially of your routes, the things that you've done within Army Medicine. I know we've got some folks putting comments and stuff like that, and I welcome. Hey, if you've got a question, if you've got a comment, send it on over. We're going to show it on the screen. I'm sure your question or comment is something that someone else is thinking of. So send in your questions and your comments, and people will appreciate actually it being shown. You know, there's no dumb question, of course. Send in that question, send in that comment. And I see we have 2 good comments coming on already, so I'd like to share them to the viewers out there. So we've got one from Mr. R.G. McDonald, and I don't know exactly what's the rationale that he said. That's what I'm talking about. I think it was the actual origin of the actual discussion that we're having here. So he's motivated and excited to see we're actually having that discussion for him to say that's what I'm talking about. And so thank you very much, Mr.
Awesome.
McDonald. And we've got another one here from our Battalion XO, Major Mary Johnson. What's going on, ma'am? She said the best battalion in the MRB. I agree with that as well.
100%.
I agree with that as well. Absolutely.
Definitely.
So let me ask Dr. Rosa. So what, let me start off the questions.
Sure.
You know, typically in our military careers, we find someone who's an inspiration to us or a good mentor to us. Can you speak to us a little bit about a mentor that you may have had in your military career that's kind of guided you in the right way?
Well, this is going to sound a little cheesy, but it was definitely my dad, or it's been my dad. My dad's definitely been my mentor. He was also in the medical corps for 21 years. So he kind of knows the ins and outs. Of course, the Army medicine or military medicine has changed since his time. But I'd say I'd gather most, if not all, of my inspiration from him. Of course, I've had mentors along the way that have helped me propel me forward, just like everyone else does, specifically in the realm of gastroenterology. My program director, my associate program director, my mentor, who was assigned to me, and I love Dr. Sam Owen. He's actually in the Air Force. I won't blame him for that, but several people have helped mold me and get me to where I am currently.
Excellent, excellent. So I know it looks like we have an excellent question that's already coming here as well, and maybe our recruiters could help answer this question here. And so this question comes from a Miss Andrea. She says, any recommendations for ROTC med students that want to apply for the DO program, DO degree and HPSP? Who'd like to tackle that question?
I can go for it.
Go ahead,
Yeah, so I did ROTC myself, and we do a lot of presentations and chatting with the ROTC programs, and so for ROTC, they just have to apply for an educational delay through the ROTC and apply for med school, whether it's DO or MD, doesn't matter. And during that same process in their senior year, they would also apply for the scholarship through an AMEDD recruiter. And so we work with the PMs and get them through the whole process and get them off to medical school. Once their process is no different than anyone else's, they'll go to medical school and then go into residency, become commissioned as a captain once they're finished, and start whatever specialty it is that they match into.
Excellent. Thank you, Captain Parham. Captain Weaver, you want to add on to that?
No, I was having a hard time thinking of the educational delays. I was having a delay in my brain.
It happens.
Yep. But that, that's great advice. And my best, advice for anyone that's in ROTC that's interested, ask for information early on. You don't want to wait until your senior year. And if it's something you really want to do, go for it. And, you just have to put your heart and soul into the process and, making sure that you prepare for your MCATs and put your best foot forward in the application process. But that just goes for anyone. If this is something that you want, you have to go all in. And that's the way it has to be.
Okay. And Major Rosa, do you want to add on to any of this question?
Sure. So, I mean, in terms of the ROTC component, I'm not exactly sure. I think they did a great job of answering that specific question. For me, I wasn't in ROTC. I went in, just cold, no military experience prior to that. But I think, like Captain Weaver, already mentioned, you really, it's not just about, hey, getting my medical school paid for, my education paid for, which is awesome, by the way, don't get me wrong. But you really have to think about, military. There has to be a strong cause, a strong reason for you to join. Yes, you're going to have to do push-ups, sort of an inside joke amongst us right now. You have to do, you have to, stay physically active. You have to pass your physical fitness tests. I think you have protected time while you're in medical school that you just focus on being a doctor, on being the best medical doctor that you can be, osteopathic physician that you can be. And I think the Army or the military in general does a great job of allowing us to develop both first as a physician, and then they do a great job of training us. A basic officer leadership course does a great job of showing you here's how to wear a uniform properly. Here's how to wear your cover, etc. Little things that 17 years in the military you take for granted, but for someone that just came in, I needed to learn all of that. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Excellent, excellent. So thank you very much for that question. And I see actually a follow-up, and she said, thank you all for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. And so I see there's a follow-up to that question that she asked earlier. So here's a follow-up, someone jumping onto it. They said, following the above, any recommendations for civilians wanted to enter DO and HPSP? And I think Major Rosa, you could probably best answer that.
Yeah, so it's just basically preparing for medical school as best as you can. Of course, studying, getting excellent grades in college, the core classes, as we all know, organic chemistry, general chemistry, biology, doing very well in those classes, and doing well on your MCAT, of course, getting good letters of recommendation. But basically, your number one goal should be getting into medical school, because once you get into medical school, then you can apply for the Health Profession Scholarship Program. So that's my 2 cents. The other way, like I sort of alluded to earlier, is via the Uniformed Services University route. But since we're specifically talking about HPSP, it's just preparing yourself as best as possible for the rigors of medical school. The Army kind of comes later on.
Excellent.
I'd actually like to follow up on that a little bit.
Go ahead, Captain Parham, you got it.
Yeah, so you don't actually have to be accepted into medical school yet. And I think that applying for HPSP while you're in the process of applying for medical schools really does help get into medical school, because a lot of the medical schools know that they're going to be getting their money, and it looks good that you already have the scholarship, but you don't have to be accepted into medical school yet. You can do both at the same time. And I actually had an applicant that is currently in SLU medical school in her senior year, in October of her senior year. So she almost had an entire school year left. She was already accepted into medical. Well, actually, she got the HPSP scholarship first, and then found out in December she was accepted to SLU Med. So she had her whole, second semester of her senior year set up. She knew where she was going and that she had her school paid for. It's something that she had always wanted to do, and just not so much about the money, but joining the Army and following the rest of her family.
Captain Parham, is that something new, just out of curiosity, or has that always been the case where you can apply for HPSP before getting the acceptance letter?
Since I've been out here, what we like to do is find juniors that know that they want to go to med school and start working with them on their application during the summer. And the earlier they submit their application, if they haven't been accepted into med school yet, we just put in a list of all the places that they have applied to, and then they can have their HPSP already accepted, and then get accepted into med school, say January, February, and finish their senior year. That's how it's been since I've been out here.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay.
Excellent. So we've got an additional question actually coming in. Let's go ahead and post that question. Actually, it looks like a comment. And it comes from Miss Bella Alves. She says, EMPD2, Enlisted to Medical Degree Preparatory Program, is a great program for enlisted personnel that wants to go to medical school. I just applied while being active duty. Do we know much about that?
So I can actually speak on this. It is, like she said, the EMDP2 program, and it's a partnership between the Uniformed Services University and Armed Forces. It's 24 months long, and it is going to enable highly qualified enlisted service members to complete preparatory coursework before, going to medical school. So it's going to help them get all of their prereqs done, and they're still going to be on active duty status. So this would only apply to someone that's in the armed forces right now, that's currently an enlisted service member, and it's going to help bridge them over to be able to be eligible and apply for medical school with USU. So that is separate from the HPSP scholarship, but if there are currently serving enlisted service members that are interested in medical school, this is an amazing program and opportunity for them to do so.
Thank you very much, Holly. Thank you very much for that clarification. And I see Bella actually left a follow-up comment. She said a lot of people aren't aware of EMDP2, but it's amazing if you're already in the military. It's available to all branches.
Absolutely amazing.
Force I have it. I was saying EPN, EMPD, and EF. Yeah, I gotta be careful.
Almost sounds like Star Wars-ish.
Yeah, EFMP. I know about all those programs, and she said that was perfectly explained. So, thank you very much. That's a props to Holly. Let's give Holly some props. Bam, right there to Holly.
No, thanks. Thank you to Bella for bringing it up and educating our audience, because that's not something that we would have discussed otherwise. So thank you, Bella.
Absolutely. So we've got some more comments here that we see coming in, and keep sending those comments in, y'all. These are really helpful to others. He said, I have a soldier in the program now. I think it will help with future physician retention. Seems like a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
That's good. That's good.
Awesome.
That's good. Let's kind of humanize the military medical experience. So you got accepted into the program that you were in. What were the tough moments initially when you just got in, Dr. Rosa? What were some of those tough moments, and what are some of the things that you kind of learned from that's really helped with your drive?
So getting into the program was obviously awesome. It doesn't really hit you until you start realizing that unlike your other peers, you're not having to pay for anything, or you get reimbursed for all the costs of books and any random expenses, tuition, etc. But it really hit me in 2010 whenever I went to basic officer leadership course. It was between my second and third year. I believe at that time it was 2 or 3 weeks long. And you spend some time buying the uniform, learning where everything goes, how to wear it, how to feel comfortable in your own skin, how to march, everything else. So I think it was that kind of drastic change from civilian life to realizing, okay, now I'm going to be joining this, and this is going to be a part of my life. It wasn't necessarily a tough adjustment. It was just simply an adjustment. But I would say overall, there wasn't any really negative points that I had from it. Spending a week in the field whenever I was just used to, living the good life in AC and things like that, that was definitely a drastic change. But aside from, the physical changes associated with being out in the field for the first time in my life, really, I can't really think of any major hurdles that I had to go through.
Got you. So let's see. We've got some, and thank you for sharing that information, sir. We've got some more comments coming in, and we've got a good question actually here from one Major Stouffer. And she asks, Major Rosa, are you glad you waited to do your fellowship later in your career? Are you doing your fellowship with an MTF?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It kind of just happened that I decided to go into a fellowship or subspecialize later in my career. I think after residency, I was a little bit burned out from all the training, from the long hours, sleepless nights, etc. So I just wanted to be my own person, be staff internist for a few years. And then realized, sort of that those few years as staff that I kind of gravitated towards more GI-related patients, for example, like hepatology type patients, GI bleeders, things like that, that as an internist, as you probably know, we're not certified to do any kind of procedures related like a colonoscopy, things like that. So a lot of things that I found interesting that I couldn't really do anything about. I was kind of tired of being sort of a referral person as opposed to the person that's kind of end all be all and I'll fix whatever problem it is. So that kind of gradually evolved into my loving GI and then eventually applying for a subspecialty. Am I glad that it happened later on in my career? I guess it just kind of happened where it benefited me because I was at the end of my 4-year contract. So I got to re-up in the I guess the time that I'm accruing is concurrent with my fellowship. But that was just a happenstance. That wasn't like me purposely waiting until later in my career.
Thank you very much.
And then, yes, I'm over at Brooke Army. I'm so sorry, sir. But yes, the second part of the question, yes, I'm over at Brooke Army Medical Center. In terms of fellowships, they tend to be at MTF. So the 2 fellowships that we have for GI are Brooke Army Medical Center here in San Antonio, Texas. And then the second one is at Walter Reed, which is, in the Bethesda area. Sorry to interrupt, sir.
That's all right. No apologies to me. I'm just
I think
here.
that's a really good question. I think it's a really good question out there, just because we see a lot of the civilian physicians go directly from residency directly into fellowship. And it's just almost all the physicians that we speak to that are interested in joining the Army, or when we go to conferences, they automatically have a fellowship lined up right after residency.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And what I would say is the good thing about the military is, unlike in the civilian sector where you're 100% right, you tend to subspecialize earlier on because the later you are as a staff, the less likely you are to subspecialize in terms of being accepted and everything else. It kind of, the military provides that flexibility where if later on you kind of gain an interest in a subspecialty, it's never too late to apply. In fact, you get more points as staff based on your rank and so on, because of course the military wants to retain us. So you're right. That's a really good question.
Excellent. So we're come on. I appreciate all the comments and questions. Come on, send them on over. The population is building. The people are jumping in. The people are jumping in. So
Otis, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Holly.
Okay, before you bring up more comments and questions, because I see them stacking up right now, which is awesome. I want to take like a quick kind of pause to kick it over to Captain Parham, and him and I are just going to, so we kind of like did a little bit of a teaser, about this HPSP that Dr. Rosa, that's how he came into the Army. But I mean, we're holding back a little bit on how amazing HPSP is, because not only is the Army going to pay for your medical school, you're also going to get a $20,000 sign-on bonus, cha-ching, and you're going to be receiving over $2,400 a month in a stipend, on top of many other benefits. So, just to kind of put it into perspective, I, shared this live stream with a bunch of different Facebook groups that I'm on and I'm part of, and someone commented that their medical school costs $60,000 a year. So that's $240,000 that they would be in debt. HPSP, roughly, give or take, you'll earn around $140,000 while in medical school based off the bonus and the stipend. And your school is paid for, so you'll have no debt and you'll be on top $140,000. Medical school for this other person, $240,000 just for school, not including living expenses and all the other things that come with school. So it's just an insane opportunity that it's hard to beat. And I'm going to kick it over to Captain Parham to just share a little bit more information about the HPSP.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 3 years, and I think HPSP, I've been in the Army for 17, like I said, and I had no idea about majority of our programs before I came out to recruiting. And HPSP, to me, is by far just the most amazing program that the Army offers, because like Holly said, it's I've seen so that's 240,000, and that depends on if you're going to a state school, if you go overseas. I've run into applicants that want to come into the Army after med school and have $500,000 with their of debt between their living expenses, their textbooks, their tuition, all of that stuff. So being able to come out ahead and not have to worry about paying off all the debt and financing it and everything like that. And Major Rosa can probably touch on this a little bit, but coming out with no debt plus the money that you make in HPSP, your monthly stipend, you're going into residency making significantly more than a resident on the civilian side. So roughly about $50,000 a year in residency annually for a civilian resident, when as a captain with housing allowance and sustenance allowance, all of that stuff, you're making over, I think it's about $80,000, probably a bit more, depending on where you're living as well.
Yeah, I definitely say that there's something to be said about graduating from med school, going into residency, debt-free. I can't imagine any other feeling as opposed to having, like you mentioned, like six-figure debt, like our civilian counterparts do. Residency, we're a little bit better paid than the civilian sector, and then definitely for fellowship, like, my colleagues and I always joke we're like the best paid fellows in the country. Yeah, I mean, financially, definitely a step that I do not regret whatsoever. Just being debt free, just that emotional lift that I get from knowing that I don't have that six-figure debt. That'll take me quite a while to pay off if I had it.
I think one other point with that is the leadership training. I speak with a lot of physicians, and that's one thing that they crave that they don't get on the civilian side is the leadership training, being in those leadership positions. So when I speak with practicing physicians, that's a lot of times what they're looking for is that training.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, just from the military courses that we are kind of groomed to go into. I mentioned basic officer leadership course, captain's career course, junior leadership course, which is a couple weeks long. I mean, the opportunity to serve as an interim medical director, like my year and a half out from residency. I mean, all those opportunities were definitely made possible through the military. And, there's always this argument, like, are physicians inherent leaders, or do we become leaders? And in all reality, physicians, we should be seen as leaders. And I think the military does a great job of bringing that out. Like I was talking to Captain Weaver before this, like I'm an introvert at heart, and I kind of forcing myself to be an extrovert right now and communicate, my passion for HPSP and my passion for military medicine with y'all.
You wouldn't know that you're an introvert because you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Okay,
I think probably everyone could guess that I'm an extrovert.
Oh, yeah. Big time. So, Holly, can I jump back into the questions and the comments?
Oh, absolutely.
They're coming in fast.
We had to take a quick time out to hype up the HPSP a little bit more.
Okay, we appreciate that, Holly. Thank you so much. Let's kind of jump from the top. So we have one from, let's see, individual name Samboto. says, is there any way for an overseas medical student to get into the program? I'm going to assume someone who is from a different country. Go ahead, Captain Parham.
Sure, I can jump on that. I actually spoke with somebody this morning. We see a lot with Ross University or St. George's in the Caribbean, and I don't know if this particular person is in one of those programs, or even in India or wherever. If you're coming back to the United States for your residency, I guess the short answer is no. HPSP, if you're already an overseas medical student, we only do HPSP for the stateside, even if it's fully accredited, like St. George. But there is a program called the Specialized Training Assistance Program, or STRAP. So if you do want to serve and you do want to be a physician in the Army, that's an Army Reserve program that you can start in your first year of residency. You'll get the stipend that we've been talking about, as well as you can start student loan repayment, which is, depending on your specialty, up to $40,000 a year, capping at $250,000. So that'll help you get in. That time in residency also counts as time toward retirement in the Army Reserve.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain Parham. So we've got some more questions and comments. Let's go ahead and just post them. One from Stephen Laswell asks, very basic question here. What is the required commitment that comes with accepting the scholarship? Can one do their time and then go into the private civilian service? Who wants to jump on that?
I mean, I can go first, and then y'all can round it out. But at least with the HPSP, basically every year that you get paid for, that you get your medical school paid for, books, tuitions, etc., stipend included, you incur a year of commitment. So, for example, I did 4 years because they paid for my entire 4-year medical school. Typically, you are going to be sort of ushered into the military residencies for further training. I know that sometimes they offer civilian deferments for training, but at least whenever I went through, it was mainly ushering into the military residency programs. Those 4 years are once you're staff. So it's the 4-year payback, so to speak, is going to be once you graduate from your residency program. Once you pay off those 4 years, it's going to be up to you what you'd like to do. If you decide to get out, you can get out and practice civilian medicine. If you want to re-up for whatever reason, then you can re-up. But basically, that's typically how it works. For every year that you pay off, they pay for your medical school, you owe them a year after graduating from your training program.
Okay. Thank you very much for that answer, sir. Captain Weaver, Captain Parham, want to jump on that?
Captain Parham, do you have anything else to add for that one?
Yeah, I would just say that it also depends on your residency. So if you're a surgeon or the orthopedic surgeon, or your residency is longer than 4 years, you will do an obligation of however long your residency is. So five plus years. And as far as doing your obligation and then going into the private or civilian sector, the answer is yes, you do your obligation after residency. And if you do go through HPSP, it's actually, the Army kind of ushers you into the Army Reserve if you want to go to the civilian sector, but you still have the desire to serve in some capacity, part-time capacity, where they will count your medical school time toward your retirement time in the Army Reserve.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's jump into the next comment. We see one from Mr. Brent Daniel. This is a good comment. He says, HPSP provided me the opportunity to comfortably raise a family during medical school and residency, an opportunity which would be much more challenging in the civilian sector. Radiology is the best field, by the way. Sees that he's a little biased towards radiology. Thank you for your comment, Brent Daniel. We got a question from Pablo Aranez asks, how different is the military match process versus the civilian match process?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So at least with the military, it's a smaller pool of applicants, of course. fewer training programs. So it really just depends. I'm going to say that it just depends on the specialty that you want to go into. Of course, the traditional competitive specialties, dermatology, things like that are going to be still on the competitive side in the military. Internal medicine, family medicine, the less competitive, or typically mirror that as the civilian side. You're going to be applying, like I said, smaller pool of applicants, however, fewer medical centers that you can train. So it's still competitive. The other quirk that the military has is, of course, if you've done your time, let's say that you're prior enlisted and then you went through medical school and then now you're applying for a match. If you have the same merit as someone that came from the civilian sector, HPSP, for example, you'll probably get it over that person just because the military likes to, like I said, kind of retain us as long as possible and reward us for our time in service. That would basically be, and of course the timing. I think the civilian match is a little bit after our match by a few months, but otherwise no major difference, at least whenever I applied.
I see an actual follow-up thing here where someone said, just as a side note, Army had 98% first choice match rate this year.
Nice.
So
go Army.
That is
yes,
excellent.
Awesome.
Absolutely
Yeah.
excellent. So thank you for the question, Mr. Pablo Aranes. So we've got some more comments coming in. We've got one from Ms. Therese Gamble said, pride in the patch. I am proud of my husband and sons, Brigadier General retired Brian Gamble, Major
Awesome.
Brian Gamble, and Captain Sean Gamble. HPSP is the way to go. Thank you very much for that comment.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Excellent. Yep. We've got another good question here from Bella again. She asks, Major Rosa, can you please explain the process of going into residency? I'm assuming that because you did the HPSP, you were able to match to civilian hospitals. For people attending UHS, can they apply to a civilian residency program, or does it have to be with military hospitals? Thank you in advance. Thanks for that question.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the questions here. So I'm just going to answer the first question. So in terms of the process of going into residency, kind of already talked about the match process. You apply just like in the civilian match. You interview typically, if you're in a different location, you can over the phone interview, or you can try to do an in-person interview. But basically everything sort of mirrors the civilian match in that sense. Residency, I mean, the actual time, again, I did internal medicine residency. That's a 3-year residency. When I was in residency, you're just focused on being the best possible budding physician that you can be. Of course, you have your, every 6 months. At that time, it was the APFT. Now it's the upcoming ACFT. But aside from just passing the APFTs, you're more or less left alone to just study, hit the books, work late hours, of course, long hours. So no real difference between the civilian residency and the military residency. The typical UAs that you have to do every now and then, but otherwise that's the only difference that I noticed. And then HPSP was able to match to civilian hospitals. So whenever I went through, I did apply and, did interview at civilian hospitals and civilian programs. But at least whenever I applied Army, the specific year that I was in, we were all told that we needed to go to a military residency program. So even though, I could have, matched to a civilian, I was ushered into the military program, which I'm very thankful for. It was a heck of a time. For people attending USHUs, can they apply to a civilian residency program, or it has to be with military hospitals? So my understanding, at least from my colleagues that are awesome USHUs graduates, I believe it's only military that they can apply to. I could be corrected. I could potentially be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure it's only military residency programs that they can match into. Thank you for your question.
Excellent question. Excellent question, Bella. Let's jump on to some other things here. And this is something that I've heard echoed from some other recruiters as well. The question is, why isn't it advertised more or utilized a targeting approach for first-year med students? Did you ever really have that sort of qualm, like, hey, why wasn't this targeted more towards more med students, first-year med students, while you were in med school as well, Major Rosa?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I remember seeing advertisements around, and maybe we had like a guest speaker or two during our, lunch break in between our didactics come in to kind of give an informal talk about it. But really, the only way that I was ushered into it, at least introduced into it, while I was in college, was through my dad, like I mentioned before, because he was an HPSP graduate as well, or HPSP recipient as well. Otherwise, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that it's not advertised more. I think it's a great opportunity for budding physicians that are interested in their military service, getting, like we talked about numerous times, medical school and everything paid off. But yeah, I am kind of surprised at the lack of advertisement.
Yeah.
So I would have a follow-up question to this person. We can't see who it is, but my question to this person would be, like, where are you going to school? Because we do, try and advertise it. We're on social media, posting on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and then, we're going into undergraduate programs and presenting these opportunities. Captain Parham was able to email 4,500 students that have taken the MCAT, letting them know about this amazing opportunity. But, there are still missed opportunities out there, even though we are doing our best to get out there on social media, to do these live streams that can be watched worldwide, and, to email all of these people. But we know that the information is still not reaching all of the potential people that might be applying. So my question is, just kicking it back to this Facebook user, how do you feel that we could, make a better targeted approach? And, where are you located, or what school are you going to, so that we can make sure that we get the information to your school?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question that you've asked back. I think, because I remember, especially working with my AMPA guy there in the 5th MRB, Mr. Rocha, the biggest thing is that, we are a very specific, targeted type of audience. We're not the general Army medic sort of advertising organization or recruiting organization. We're looking for the med student. We're looking for the highly skilled future medical doctors. And I think those who are in administrative positions in those different schools that do have interaction with these potential medical students can develop the relationship with our recruiters so that they can be aware of all these different things they could take advantage of. Yes, it's a very highly competitive program, but as they always say, cream always rises to the top. So if you are that highly competitive student, if you are that person who is physically fit and mentally sharp and want to serve their country, look into your school's medical admin, look into military opportunities, especially when recruiters come by and are looking for future medical doctors. Take advantage of the HPSP scholarships. As an advertiser, that's just my little spiel regarding marketing, etc. But I'm going to shut up now and jump into the next comment.
Otis,
go ahead.
Yeah. So for this person, if they did miss the HPSP, we do have a 3-year HPSP for medical school. The scholarship opportunities, as far as the number of scholarships that are given out, are quite a bit less. But if you've missed that deadline and you do want to serve as a physician in the Army, whether it's active or reserve, we do have programs when you get into residency or in your last year of medical school. So one of those, if you want to be an active duty physician, would be the financial assistance program, depending on your specialty, if you'd like to look into that. But the Army gives you a 40 $45,000 grant annually plus the stipend throughout your residency, and then you go into active duty as a physician in your specialty.
Absolutely.
And we talked about
Thank
the
you
strap
for
as
that.
well.
Thank you for that info there, Captain Parham. We always appreciate the slam dunk after the alley-oop is being passed. So we've got another, let's see, it looks like a good comment here. It comes in and it says, if an officer is working for a medical service corps and decides to study in medical school, do they have the opportunity to take an ED delay, or how does it work if they want to apply for HPSP as well? Thanks. Good question. Who wants to jump on this one?
Captain Parham, since you're a medical service corps officer, would someone that is currently working, would they be eligible to apply for HPSP only if they're out, and then they could do U-shoes if they're in?
No, absolutely not. So they still have the opportunity for HPSP. It goes through your branch, and you have to get released from your branch and everything. But if you are active duty, we do this all the time with Fort Leonard Wood. You get accepted or are in the process of getting accepted to medical school. You work with a recruiter, and you can still do HPSP the same way as if you were in your undergrad right now.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Captain Parham.
Absolutely.
We have another question that's been asked twice, so let's go ahead and post it up. It asks, can a PA switch over to an MD after while service, or do they have to go into the reserve?
Well, I'm.
It's pretty much the same answer.
Yeah.
Same answer.
Same
right?
answer.
As a PA, if you want to go to med school, you can do HPSP. You don't have to go, and you will transfer into the reserve if you're currently active duty. You will transfer into the IRR while you're in med school. However, it's the same thing. You can still apply for HPSP if you want to become a physician.
Excellent. I like this comment here. It says, HPSP isn't about money up front. It's also job security. What does that mean, Captain Weaver?
That means so much. But, this is an ever-changing world, and, just knowing that you have a career, it's not just a job, it's a career. It is something that, I put my heart and soul into, and I enjoy doing every single day. And I'm proud to say that I'm an Army nurse. So, it's that job, it's the job security, but it's also just being a part of the Army medicine team. And then just all the other things that come along with being in the Army, the healthcare, the retirement, the compensation, and just the pride that comes along with serving. There's just so many reasons, but the job security, it's definitely a huge one.
Okay. Thank you very much, Captain Weaver.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'll piggyback on that one real quick.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, thank you. It's Doctor's Day today, so happy Doctor's Day to all the physicians listening out there. But to answer this, yeah, I totally agree. Especially, the pandemic last year, it definitely showed us that the medical field is not as stable of a career field as we once thought. So I know a lot of my staff, who are my mentors, actually decided to extend their contract a year or two until kind of COVID settles down, because especially, in subspecialists where there's elective procedures, a lot of those elective procedures were, kind of postponed throughout the pandemic. So yeah, I totally agree with that comment. Thank you for that comment.
Excellent. Okay. So let's jump into the next question. That actually looks like a comment. Comes from Miss Gamble again. She says, Lieutenant General retired Mark Hertland. He's the former Surgeon General of the Army. A few iterations back, he wrote a great book about training physicians as leaders. You're gonna have to look that up a little bit. And, I'm sure someone would appreciate that book. Thank you very much for that comment, Miss Gamble.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And this is a good question. Any info about HPSP dental?
Captain Parham, take it away.
Thank you, Captain Holly Weaver. So HPSP dental, exactly the same thing. Outside of obviously the residency, I would say the one big difference is that the dental students have to apply for AEGD. They don't have to do it, but they do have to apply once they're in their 4th year of dental school. But same program, full loans, textbooks, stipend, bonus, exactly the same. I would say that it's quite a bit more competitive, because I think this year and last year there were 75 scholarships given away for dental. And then the one other thing for that is that is a one-time year board. So you don't want to miss that deadline, which is typically in January or February. So if you're a dental student and you're looking into HPSP, I would get in contact with your local recruiter earlier than later.
Okay. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much, Farham. Good. Let's see. One from Logan Christian asks, could you discuss active duty trainings over the summer during medical school? Ooh, that's for Major Rosa, I would think.
Sure. So the one active duty training that I had, at least, that I was able to fit in between the semesters during medical school, between my 2nd and 3rd years, like I mentioned, because that was the only time that I had like more than a week or 2 off, I think it was Basic Officer Leadership course, BOLIC or OBLC, whatever it's called nowadays. I think at the time it was 2 to 3 weeks. I'm not sure how long it is now. I assume that they're keeping it compact so that we're able to complete it during our medical school training. I remember the first week and a half was Didactic. So basically you're sitting in a classroom, learning all about the military, branch specific, whether it's Army, Air Force, Navy, whatever the case is. At least in my experience, Army, we're learning about the history of the Army, Army medicine. Like I sort of mentioned earlier in this discussion, how to be a soldier, so you don't look ridiculous whenever you go to your first duty station. How to wear the uniform, things like that. That's when we're given time to specifically go over and buy our uniforms, buy everything that we need, from our uniforms like this to our dress blues or whatever the case is. And then the last, I want to say, week and a half, 2 weeks was basically out in the field, where you're spending a week at a time out in tents in the nice San Antonio heat, just learning how to march, land navigation, just all the things kind of crammed into those wonderful 2 weeks while you're there. But yeah, that was my experience. At least it may have changed, because my experience, like I mentioned, was in 2010, so already 11 years ago. I'm not sure what it's like now. I would assume it's the same, but I'm sure you all can comment if there's any differences now.
Yes, sir. I just want to throw this out there. You said the 2 weeks in the tent. However, let's be realistic. You go out on a Monday, you come back on a Friday because you get your weekends off.
I mean,
and they're air conditioned, and you have showers.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I know, if any of my colleagues are out there listening, it's a good time along the Riverwalk, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So at least you get to de-stress and build that cameraderie with your friends. So that's also,
absolutely,
that's true. Yeah,
that's not a river. That's not a river, by the way. That's a creek.
River. Yeah.
Okay.
Waterway.
So let's jump into waterway, the San Antonio waterway. Let's jump into another set of questions. And I really love how this discussion is going. It's just flowing naturally. I love this. So the question is, I'm a prior service officer interested in HPSP. Will I need to go to BOLIC again? If not, what other training or research opportunities are available for the required 45-day active duty tour? Who'd like to tackle that one?
So for
you don't have
BOLIC,
to do BOLIC again.
No.
Okay.
Yep. So you don't have to do BOLIC again, which is amazing since he's already been an officer. That's kind of like a one and done. Check that off your list. If not, what other training and research opportunities are required? I think what you could do for that is you could do some shadowing at a MTF or something like that for your 45-day training. I'm sure Major Rosa could probably comment on this, but I know that when I worked at Brooke Army Medical Center, I would have different medical students that were there for the summer, and they would be working with the doctors, on that unit. And then he would actually come and help me with nursing stuff because he would want to be more engaged and involved and do more hands-on things that he might not have had an opportunity to do later on as a doctor. So I think that would be an opportunity, would be some shadowing and working at an actual MTF. But Major Rosa, if you have any more to add, or
yeah, sure. No, that's a great. Whenever, like during your third and fourth years, so first 2 years of medical school, I know everyone listening knows this already. Didactic's third and fourth year of the clinical rotation. So during those 45 days that you're referring to. You typically try to set up military rotations in places that you kind of hope they can see you, kind of like the interview rotations where, same in the civilian sector, you want to rotate where you want to go just so that they can get to know you, you can get to know them and see if you're a good fit both ways. So, you can do rotations, whether it's, subspecialty rotations, your internal medicine, depending on what you want to get into at that point. You can do those rotations at those specific MTFs. That's, I'm assuming, what he's referring to, just to kind of get that exposure and, of course, learn during the process and everything else. I hope that's the question that he's answering or asking.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Just to jump back, I think you didn't have to go through this, Major Rosa. They didn't have DCC when you were going through, right? Direct commissioning course?
Negative, no.
Yep. So they do have a new course between their first and second year. It's 3 weeks at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. My other HPSP applicants called it Baby Basic. It's essentially an officer basic that they go down for 3 weeks and do exactly like you were talking about, just learn how to tie your boots and be a soldier and salute and all those very, very basic customs and courtesies of the Army, just to transfer so that you're not brand new once you go to BOLIC. But
okay,
yep, so that one was added.
Great, yeah. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess the caveat that I have to add is that I went through that a decade ago, so I may give outdated information. So thanks for adding that.
Absolutely.
A decade ago. That's a long time ago.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you for the answers there. Let's jump into, it looks like another question here, well, comment. It says, like here, been in the Army 6+ years, never heard of EMPD2. HPSP just sunk into my knowledge the other day. Thank you all for this important information. Well, thank you for the comment. And I guess we're kind of almost to the closing of our discussion, really, in regards to how we've been discussing, everything from HPSP to, getting your uniform on to now, potentially the jobs that you've served as a major doctor and enterologist in the gastroenterologist in the military. I guess in closing, sir, do you have any recommendations or words of advice for those who may be inspired by our discussion, our chat this afternoon?
Yeah. So I would say, if there's an inkling of interest, definitely talk to, your recruiters. We have 2 awesome ones here who know their stuff, obviously, are charismatic, are great people. So definitely contact a recruiter, get some information. But not only that, I would definitely recommend also contacting peers that are actually, in the military serving as physicians. I'll be happy to field any emails or questions that you have. I don't know if there's a way to add my email to the show notes or whatever the case is. I'll be happy to answer any questions specific to, Army medicine. But just getting to know somebody and really kind of getting down to, how they, what their experience was like, because every person's experience is going to be different, but knowing and expecting that you're going to be in the military, right? So even though you're medical school, you're going to be in the civilian sector, everything's going to seem nice. You're not even going to remember that you're in the military. All of a sudden, there's going to be one day where you're going to be expected to know how to wear the uniform, how to salute, all the customs and courtesies, physical fitness tests, etc. So just to have a good why would be my recommendation. Any inkling of hope, talk to a recruiter, reach out to colleagues that are in the military service. Definitely have a good why as to why you're joining. It's great. We talked about finances and everything else, but you really have to go in, with a strong cause for yourself and why you want to serve the country. And I mean, that's really it. The rest kind of just flows in itself. I didn't think that I was going to be in the military this long, and I'll probably stay the full 20 years, and because it's treated me so well, and I've loved every step. So.
Absolutely. I think the why is always the most important part, because those are the times that you will have to look back at. Man, it is sucking today. I don't really feel like waking up out of this bed. It is tough. Why am I doing this? And you go back to that why. You go back to that, okay, this is the reason why I, went through these tough times. These are the reasons why that I'm going through this, and I am going to persevere through all of those hard times. I know Captain Parham and Captain Weaver, did y'all have anything additionally that you wanted to say?
I was just going to say that I'm probably going to have to, utilize that and persevere when Captain Parham becomes my boss.
Remember your why. Remember your why.
Remember the why. Remember the why.
Otis,
the why.
you teed it up for me, so I had to. So Captain Parham, I'm just joking. He's an amazing recruiter and officer, and because he's so amazing, he was selected to lead our company after our current commander, who is also amazing, Captain Brown. He's great. When he leaves, Captain Parham is going to take over. And I have no doubt that he'll lead us to further greatness. But you just kind of teed it up for me, so I had to throw it out there.
Alley-oop. You got to slam down the alley-oop. I see we have a question here being asked. Hey, will this be shown on YouTube? My daughter's interested. She doesn't have Facebook. Yes, it is going to be on YouTube. Actually, it's streaming live right now on two YouTube channels. Army Medicine. So if you go on YouTube and look up the Army Medicine channel, or you go on the 5th Medical Recruiting Battalion's channel, and you will find those recordings live on there. So you could go and check it out for further information regarding HPSP, Captain Parham, Captain Holly Weaver, or even Major Rosa. I want to say thank you, coming from Army Medicine. Thank you for the great discussion that we're having today. Just a shout out to the opportunities for the future episodes that will be coming. They're coming plentiful, and they're coming, with really good information, really good staff that's coming up. So thank you to all three of you for participating in our discussion this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Otis. This was a lot of fun. And thank you to all of our viewers that tuned in. We had a lot of people on this live stream throughout, and lots of great engagement. So thank you so much. Like Otis said, we do have a lot of live streams coming up, so be on the lookout for those. In the month of April, we have 4 additional Army doctors that we're going to have on, as well as an Army dietitian. And we just keep, as we do more live streams, we get more and more requests for people to do live streams, and then we just are finding more people whose story that the world needs to hear. So thank you so much, Dr. Rosa, for volunteering to help us out. It was great to hear about your story and experience, and I know that you were able to help provide information to people that were interested. So hopefully, we'll get more people that can see this information and are able and want to apply for HPSP. So thank you.
Yeah, again, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate the time. It was a great talk.
Captain Parham?
I appreciate you guys having me. Major Rosa, thanks for sharing your story. It's always great to hear that from a physician, especially going out there and trying to speak with civilian side physicians and having the contact, being able to speak physician to physician. I think that really helps. And Captain Weaver, just know that you better shape up that E-plan.
Awesome. Hey guys, hang out in the broadcast room. Let's talk a little bit more once we're done here. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
All right.
Thanks.
And so, in closing, great discussion there with 3 excellent officers, 3 excellent medical officers. Hey, if you want an opportunity for you or a family member or friend or someone that you know that would be a great candidate to be an Army officer, especially medical service officer, who possibly wants to have their school paid for, medical school paid for, check out the information down there. Captain Holly Weaver's information is there that you can reach out to her right now. Heck, if you want to get in contact with Dr. Rosa, sorry about that. You can reach out to Captain Parham and Captain Weaver and get that information. Why did I say Sosa? Maybe baseball is on my mind. Who knows? But anyways, it has to be. It has to be. Let's go ahead, and I will say to you, I am thankful that you joined us today for our discussion. And as we always say here in Army Medicine is Army Strong. Take care now.